Stream. Okay. Say microphone check. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Here we go again. Say microphone check. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Here we go again. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. What's up, world? Here I am, Trev, with the People's Mic, a part of the Value Exchange Fellowship. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here every week. The viewers, as long as I reach one person a week, that's great. That's all I need. And I'm doing that. So thank you, all of you who are tuning in. I got Jesse. Jesse, what's up?
What's up? Glad to be here. I love it, man. Every week for how long? I don't even know, but man, you are the sustainability that you try and promote, and that's what I love about this whole thing.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And I just want to let everybody know that we have been changing the format every week or so, but we're finding a groove as of late. And if it changes again next week, so what? The idea is that we are here talking to you. We have something to say. We have something to share. We have things to update. We are out there being active. Jesse's out there being active. Jesse said he has a bunch of things that he wants to share. I have a bunch of stuff I want to share. But before we get going, I want to just do a few announcements. At thevalueexchange.org, we are trying to work this community, the sharing economy model, and we have 25% off of the essential goods that you can buy. The way it works is a pay it forward model. The money that we get contributed to our platform through the Open Collective, we take that chunk, we take 25% off of the essential items. So if you go there, thevalueexchange.org, buy something, 25% off. There are other items that are free, mostly the things that we give away when we do our SALT outreach, which will be next Saturday, I believe. So yeah, head over to thevalueexchange.org. If you need something, you are in the Tampa area, or we have it shipping as well, 25% off. You have to sign up to be a member. We'll send you the discount code by email or through our newsletter. So we have that. And I think that's it. That's it for the announcements. We don't have a lot of announcements. Jesse, you have anything you want to announce?
Nothing,
All
nothing,
right.
nothing.
All
I
right.
mean, not so much that we have coming forward, but if you want to talk about what we've done, man, I'm down. But yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do that right now. We're definitely going to do that. So we can review activist update. For us, I'm going to start with myself and then we jump into Jesse and anybody else that joins us. Let's play predictions. How many people are going to join us tonight from the crew? I predict one more. One more. That's my prediction. We go until 10:30. I try to do 15 minutes per guest. So we'll go 10:15, 10:30. Somebody else join us. Maybe we'll go a little further. So yes, I say 10:30 today. That's my prediction. Let's see if we surpass or if we underperform, which is fine as long as we get to that one person. And right now, I got Jesse, so that's one person. So we are winners. All right, so we can review. For me, it hasn't been much outreach in out there in the field. I've been doing my podcast with my coworker Jihad, and the podcast is named "Gots to Do Better," my brother. And the feeling, I work with Jihad today as well, and we just feeling really positive about that. We had a new coworker. I'm no longer the newest person. I'm no longer the new hiree. We had one other guy join us today, and he heard us talking, a white guy, and he was interested. This actually was really strange to see a new white person kind of say, "Oh, what are you guys doing a podcast?" And we said, "Yeah, we don't know where your political leanings are, but it's more than that." So hopefully you will get something out of that. Tune in on the same YouTube channel, and we hope that it's helpful. It's really a FUBU type of production for us by us, trying to uplift our community, as in our brothers and sisters, Black, African ancestry, because we believe, just like Black Lives Matter, that you have to lift those who are most on the margins first. You have to put on your oxygen mask first before we can take care of the rest. So Want join us? Comment, share. I'm starting to do this. I really have to ask for support in terms of sharing. If you like something, share it with a neighbor, share it with a friend, let them know that there's something to be said. We're trying to really help our people, and in the end, that will help the 99%. So there we go. So that's all I have for this week. Jesse, what's been going on in your world? Always love to hear your stories. So yeah, what you got? What you got?
All right, man. So first of all, I brought this up a little bit last time. Flowers for Our Grandmothers.
Oh
Massive
yeah.
success. I got the book right here. Collective publish, collective publishing.
Oh wow.
We
Wow,
got
that's amazing.
we
Wow.
got
I didn't know it was I saw the website. I went to the website and I saw the PDF. Wow, that's amazing.
I gotta turn off the blur. It's a bit of a thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
So this is our third major publication in collaboration with two other people, Francois the photographer who put that whole book together, wonderful job. And then Gabrielle Burton Hill, who is the whole this is her brainchild. Really, she's an incredible woman. Um a person, a force in Newburgh, a force for good, a force for community, collaboration, growth. Just I'm so thankful to be a part of it. 12 grandmothers in Newburgh.
Mm,
I did the audio recording. There's a 1 hour super cut of the interviews that there's a QR code in the gallery where all those photographs are printed out and they're available for view through October 11th. Um,
nice.
a very exciting thing. And I also want to say real quick, I meant to start with this, but Happy New Year, Rosh Hashanah, Hebrew New Year. I got quite an education about that at the bus stop today, and
Oh
I
yeah.
must say, I
I missed the
must
bus stop
say,
stories.
wow, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I absolutely love it. By the way, Jesse is a Hebrew name. It means the Lord exists. So
Amen.
I'm feeling pretty connected right now. And when I asked my buddy Brian at the bus stop, who was telling me what year it is, it's just the new year.
Mm,
Counting no age, as the saying goes.
mm,
It's just the new
mm.
year. It's a commemoration of the origin of humanity. And when that began is not really important because time is an interesting concept and is not well understood.
Mm, mm,
So saying it's 2024, that's relative to a specific point in time that not everybody agrees is a reference point that needs to be sort of the reference point of what a date is.
mm.
October 4th, 2024. Sure, whatever. you know. So
It
anyway,
keeps us in sync, right?
it keeps us in sync, but does it? Because I
Mm.
was in Thailand and they're in the 2600s. They're in the future.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're in like 2600 something. I don't know exactly all the different cultures that have the different time frames that put us in a different year. So in sync is sort of a term
Hmm.
that is more understood now. It's more precise now, I should say, but that doesn't mean that it's more understood. I remember even 15 years ago, everybody's watch was different. Now we all got a phone that's an atomic clock.
Yes,
So
that is so true. Hmm.
so it might have been a 5 minute difference, a 10 minute difference in one person's watch to the next. But that's are you late for work? My watch says I'm not.
It sounds like the truth of today. Like, what's truth? That's hilarious. But that's so true. I remember hearing about this atomic clock that was located somewhere in
Right.
Switzerland or something
Right.
like that. He was like, "Where is this clock?" And now it's I'm talking to it right now. It's my
Right.
phone. And so yeah, if you're 1 minute off, what is 1 minute versus 1 year, really? You know? So back then, are we all in sync? You know? And when you even think about the new year, you know, you watch the new year come in around the world. I remember in 2000, I watched the whole thing, and it starts off in, I think it was Australia, wherever it is. But, a new year for Australia is different than the new year for us. So, yeah, what is time? So, leave it up to Jesse to bring it to the philosophical, to the abstract thinker. So yes, I appreciate that observation. So the book, I got to say, I saw the book. I saw the PDF. I am blown away. Jesse sent us photos last Friday. You guys were here. He was on, and we shared it on our WhatsApp. And you could go to his website, the collective dot the collective COLLKTIVE.com. Correct? Or did I miss something?
I know we messed everyone up with the spelling, but it's TheCollektiv, no E
Okay.
at the end,
Okay.
.com. And you can check out the Grandmother's Project there. The book is available, the digital version is available for anybody. Just go on the website, click on the learn more. There's a digital copy, you can check it out. There's some photos of the book and the event and everything.
Amen. I also want to make another announcement. I forgot. We are having a debate tomorrow right here on this live stream. It kind of grew out of our new podcast, Got to Do Better, My Brother. And the debate is Black MAGA versus Liberal MAGA. And it's going to be right here. We're going to have a few people speak from either side. And it's going to be 2 minutes, but there's an extra minute if you can collaborate or if you can uplift your opponent, quote unquote. So let's see how it goes. You know, Jesse and I spoke about this earlier. The debate format is, you know, who knows if it works or if it doesn't. But it was just such a crazy discussion with my family on WhatsApp. It's literally still going on today. It started last Thursday, Friday, and it's like a thread a minute on WhatsApp. My family, as I mentioned here last week during my the Trev comedy routine last week, that my family, they could talk. Again, they're not speakers, they are talkers. And they have been ranting from Black MAGA versus Black liberals, from gun rights to school safety, to every topic, just changing, jumping from one topic to the other. But my cousin mentioned today that there were like 500 or so posts that she couldn't read, and who's keeping track. So this is what's going to happen tomorrow. We're just going to tell them, listen, come duke it out in a place where you can teach somebody, uplift somebody, and hopefully you have something that you can share with the community to get that extra minute. And hopefully that will be something that, you know, will be valuable to all of us, to myself, to them. We can learn from each other. So tune in tomorrow right here on this channel, The Value Exchange, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, tomorrow night. And who, as Jesse said, what is Eastern Time? So hit the bell, you get an alert. I think that will be synced up at least, right? So Jesse, I want to talk about, I don't know if you have anything else you want to announce. I want to talk about get into a little bit of economics. I always
I
love
love it, man. Lay it on me. I was just having a bit of a discussion about that.
so economics, individualism versus, I guess, versus community fellowship. Like, what's your view on capitalism and how it uplifts the individual versus, this is the thing, when people talk about socialism or communism, it seems like anytime you talk about community, that's the tag they put on you. And I used to get a little bit like, you know, there's two things I used to say. One of the things I used to say is that I don't like to be categorized, because you basically are putting me in a box and painting me with a wide a brush stroke that just, you know, it's putting words and putting ideas and putting perspectives that I may not necessarily align with. So don't categorize me. But at the same time, I would still, even in my own mind, be leaning towards a community, a sharing economy, which people may want to categorize whether I ask them not to, or whether I don't ask them not to, into this socialism. I think that's just almost like a reflex from those who want to go towards the rugged individualism. But I argue, and I'm finding this, and I want to always keep this spiritual. And I have actually, we used to do our prayer at the top. I'm going to do it at the end for a reason, because I'm going to pray to the God beat. So this is still a spiritual. Sure, we are still a mission-driven, non-denominational, Advent-led, mostly virtual, sometimes not spiritually immature church. So we are still that, but I'm going to leave the prayer at the end because I want to get into the beat. Because I've been praying to this beat. When I wake up, I have this beat and I'm praying to it, and it just I'm speaking. I feel closer to God that way. So, but I do feel like this model of economics, this economic model that's more about community, is more spiritually aligned with what we see in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. And for those folks who want to lean into the individualism, when it comes down to it, and when I really talk about, when I talk about what is it that, uh, as a spiritual person, what is it that you find in capitalism that aligns with the Bible or that does not contradict what I've been finding in my reading of the Bible? Um, Jesse, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I'm totally with you. I think as soon as you put a label on something, you remove it from the context in which it sits, which
Mm,
basically makes it totally irrelevant. So as soon as there's a capitalism, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work by the nature of it separating itself and being defined in a specific with a certain amount of words. And you can define it. What if I have a 10,000 page book that defines capitalism? Is that what it is? I personally don't think so. Now, when we're talking about individualism, again, the individual does not exist externally from either the community or the environment within in which that person exists. Like they don't exist separate, or it's and to me, I find economics very interesting, but I don't find, like, for instance, investing interesting.
mhm,
And I
okay.
find finance less interesting than economics. And there's certain schools of economics that I find very interesting. And my favorite that I've talked about particularly are behavioral economics, and a continuation of behavioral economics into narrative economics,
Okay.
story driven economics.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that is where I think sort of spiritual and biblical elements come into play almost by their very nature, where the story of the origin of the thing, the Hebrew New Year, as we were
Hmm.
saying, Adam and Eve, is a story.
Hmm.
And I'm not real concerned about whether there was an Adam and Eve or not. To me, it's what is the story, and what
Hmm.
what can I learn from it, and what can I gain from it. And that to me is the profit, quote unquote, a profit to be made and not heard, um, or heard and not made, depending on how you want to approach the idea. But when it comes to and I just love this, man. I love the flow of the connection of all these things because I don't want to separate it. And when
Hmm.
it comes to these narratives, these stories, particularly with Adam and Eve, since we're there, um, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There wasn't a separation, there wasn't a distinction of things until they learned about good and evil, and shame, and the
Hmm.
covering up of the self, and the hiding of the self, and the oops, I know I did wrong.
Hmm.
That didn't exist until that moment. And so that to me is like the original sort of division and delineation of things that causes so many problems in the modern society, is the
Hmm.
categorization of the thing. The socialism, the capitalism, anarchism. These things are sort of words that are defined, and you know how I feel about labels, and you feel the
Hmm.
same way. But
Hmm.
labels are useful to communicate concepts efficiently and sort of with utility, but they are not proper descriptions of the thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. I love that. I love that. They, because things are always evolving. For one, to say that you are a capitalist, I mean, even pre-evolution, when you look at the previous versions of what people describe as capitalism, there's so much what people describe as socialism in that as well. What is a government bailout? Is that socialism? As Bernie Sanders say, it's you have socialism for the poor, but I forgot what the saying was. But you have bailouts for the rich or government. Yeah, so it's like it's such a mixture of both models that the labeling of it allows them to um, put you in a box. It allows them to say that this narrative, for me, it says one thing, but the same exact action of government helping out an entity, be it a corporation versus an individual. I put the label for the government helping out a corporation, a bailout, but the label for the government helping out an individual is, big government or welfare or whatever you want to call it. So I get that. I get that. But I do, in practical sense, in order to and I'm moving away from this idea that we have to convert, but we do, in the name of community, we do have to form a consensus so that there isn't anarchy. And when somebody comes to me with that label that you are this, I first think about what is their intent. Are you looking to build with me? Are you looking to learn from me, or are you just looking to uh, push your narrative? Or are you looking to dismiss me? So, do I counter that? Do I have to counter that? Is it necessary in order to find harmony in a community? That's where you kind of move into, you know, tricky territory, into a place where you find yourself embracing or using. I find myself saying, okay, yes, let's say for the sake of argument that I am such. Uh, how do you form a consensus? How do you have a discussion? How do you try to persuade somebody without using those labels, Jesse? Is my question.
Oh boy.
Oh
I would say,
boy.
I would say, well, to me, I don't like, I don't like standing in opposition to something. I don't like being against something. I like being for something.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't I'm very careful about trying to persuade someone about basically anything. And there's a few people, the people that are very close to me, I may make an attempt on occasion to persuade them about a certain thing.
Okay.
But when it comes to sort of people at large and even my community at large, I'm really careful about the idea of persuading someone, because for me to think that I am in the right, I
Hmm.
know more than this person, or I know better than this person, is a very strong statement that I avoid at almost all costs.
Hmm.
What I
Okay.
like to do is be open to the person that I'm talking to and not worry too much about getting tripped up on facts and figures and what's objectively correct and what isn't, and just try and hear them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let them say, because to me, and we've talked about this before, like the woman who said there was 400 million people in New York City.
Hmm.
Is it
Hmm.
do I stop everything and say no, there's only about 9 or 10 million people during the day and maybe like 7 people at night, now what are we even doing?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And it's much more important for me to just think to myself, oh, I don't really believe that figure. I have my own information that I'm gonna just, but we'll just move on and move past it, because this is a woman who had very different sources of information than myself, and it's
Hmm.
more important for me to understand where she's coming from, because then I get the perspective of the sources of information that she had that I don't know, because I don't ascribe to those sources of information. And so I'd much rather listen to someone talk at me for an hour with like 90% kind of quote unquote wrong information than get all caught up saying, no, I think this, and then, oh, now let me pull up my phone, because now we're deferring to Google, and now Google is the authority. And
Yeah.
that's not, when we're talking about consensus, the consensus has to be between me and her and the community, and not some external authority. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about government and governmental, an Uber driver a year or two ago really opened my eyes to governmental, which literally means mind control,
Okay.
which is
You mentioned that, yeah.
a very strange word to have chosen for a sort of over like a hierarchical system of power.
Mm-hmm.
But right, so when we've talked about this before, where I very much don't like to defer my agency to other people or other organizations or other institutions or systems. I like to retain as much of my agency as possible.
Mm.
And part of that agency is a security in myself that I don't need to correct somebody when it's not necessary. And of course, there's like certain times, like a parent with a child, don't put your
Mm-hmm.
hand on the burner. You know,
Mm.
there's very real situations where a quote unquote authority needs to sort of impart knowledge onto a person who may not know. And they may not know because, for instance, some burners are hot while not being glowing red or
Mm.
radiating heat at a great distance. And so I like to separate the words knowledge and wisdom, where knowledge I relate more with facts and figures, and wisdom is more about that instinctive understanding of the way of things. And
Mm.
I think a lot of people lose their wisdom that they're born with. They
Yeah.
lose it over time because people tell them that they don't know what they're talking about.
Right, right.
They get corrected for their whole life. And so they're, oh, I guess I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I don't know this. I don't know that. I don't know the word for this. I don't know what capitalism even means. So I must not know anything. Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
person does know. They've just been told that they don't and they believe it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I try and correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, and I hear you, but because in the recent year, the past year, I had that same approach. I would listen and listen regardless of whether the person aligned with the perspective that I know I want to share with them. And I wonder because maybe I'm in a moment of frustration, or maybe I'm in a moment where this is needed to name the thing and to categorize the thing and to say that no, I have a strong belief and I am not dismissing your belief, but I also want to name this thing so that we can either agree to disagree and then find some other unifying um, um, action that we can do to build together, as opposed to not taking a practical stance and just, okay, I have my belief, you have your belief. It doesn't matter because there is no real truth, which to some extent, this is the world we are living in, and not move forward. Because my last year of trying to, and I spoke about this in Got to Do Better, my brother, the other podcast, that I spent a year almost listening to people who didn't align with my perspective. And I'm at a space and a place now where, and Jesse, you could relate better than most with this, as we sat in McCarran Park fighting for Black lives. Because there's a time when if we can't name the thing and hold the thing accountable if it is not doing the sustainable thing, the harm is done. And I know that argument could go both ways. It could be a positive thing in the way of um, allowing there to be growth and allowing the segregation to end, or allowing um, gun violence to end, to name the thing that this is the thing that you need to change. Or it could go bad, as in theocracies and religion being forced upon one person, forcing their views upon someone else. But I do think there's a time where I was going to speak for more than myself, so I'm just going to speak for myself. I've reached a time where that not naming the thing and that patience, and that idea that we can both agree to disagree, agree and live in the same space, even though our disagreement is causing harm, or I like to say unsustainability, where you have to fight, and I don't mean physically, but you have to fight and say, no, I'm gonna convince you, try to convince you. And if I don't, well, then at least when we meet again, we can pick up where we left off. And I specifically say that just to move from the abstract to the actual, because uh, this debate we're having tomorrow, Black MAGA versus uh, uh, liberal blacks. Uh, and this is where you can relate, Jesse, because and not this is where I think this is something we spoke about as the Black Lives Matter as being a part of that protest. And people think that Black Lives Matter is like an official group that I'm a part. I have a a membership card too, but no, it's not. Black Lives Matter is more of an active movement of people who share a point of view. Yes, there is an actual group, but that's not the group I'm a part of. When I say Black Lives Matter, I am talking about the idea that Black Lives Matter or else no lives matter. And that's kind of where we're going at. Because remember at McCarran Park, uh, we spoke about how McCarran has to be black led. How it was just McCarran around the city. The idea was that if we're fighting for black lives, we can't have a white person or Asian person or somebody who is not of that community leading. And this idea of not naming the thing leaves you vulnerable to the harm that comes from not challenging somebody and saying, yes, I understand the abstractness of it all, but here's what actually happens, and let's debate that. So I want to get your thoughts on that, Jesse, how you feel about moving from the abstract to the actual.
So all of these are actual. Like I'm coming to you straight from the bus stop, man. And the bus stop is Black MAGA.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Wow. Can you get one of them on tomorrow? My cousin is by himself, and he's like,
I don't know, man. Like I
no,
don't.
no. I got you. I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, right.
So go
I
ahead. I
mean,
love to hear. I didn't know that. That's wonderful.
oh
Okay.
yeah, totally,
Wow.
man. Like
Wow.
you know, I once upon a time I might have had a problem with that,
Mm, mm,
but I no longer have a problem with that because again, I don't know another person's life well enough. Now, this I'm speaking for myself. I by no means want to speak for you. And so if you have the confidence to rebuke somebody and you have that feeling of the necessity for rebuke,
mm,
please do it. That is important. And once in a while, I'll rebuke a person myself. And there was a woman on Lander Street who was talking who we were talking to, and she rebuked a religious institution with great truth and great vigor.
mm.
And I stood in awe of her truth and
Okay.
her ability to present her perspective and how and why they were mistaken. And oh boy, was it beautiful.
Wow.
Oh boy, was it beautiful. And I was there for the rebuke. We were just talking about the rebuke the next day. The rebuke happened yesterday, and I was there.
Wow. Okay.
And so I by no means want there to be no rebuking in the world. I think that is a powerful,
I
and
love that
that's
we reintroduced the word rebuke. I don't know when I've last used that. It sounds like such a spiritual biblical word.
it
I love
is.
it.
And those who have achieved a certain level of spirituality must rebuke when it's necessary.
Mm,
I just
mm,
personally feel like, and I don't even want to say an infant. What I want to, because infants, I think, are very wise and capable of rebuke in a moment, in a split second, they will rebuke you for what you did. Maybe not, with English words, but if you do something that they think is unjust, oh boy, you're going to know it. What I could use the term immature. We use the terms mature and immature, and I consider myself spiritually immature. I only got sort of refocused on that, as we've spoken before, about 3 years ago,
Mhm.
by a wonderful man named Mr. Loftman, who is, in my opinion, a true spiritual leader. Um,
Mr.
and
Loftman,
Mr. Loftman, the one and only.
the one and only.
I have so much respect for him and what he does. And his congregation was small when I first went there and dwindled as I kept going. And he was the type of spiritual leader who would say, "What do you think you know about what you believe?" Oh boy.
I
Oh
sat
boy.
there with one of his. Me and Jesse went to his service, and this was at exactly the time when I had my spiritual reawakening. It was a weekend that I would never forget, and I was, right here in Florida. I said, Jesse, I'm coming up to New York, and would you go to church with me? And this is after hearing about Mr. Lofton. And Jesse said yes. And in fact, we decided on a church to go to, and and I may be missing a few steps here, but we decided to go to Mr. Loftman's church. And at that time, when I was in Florida, coming up to New York, I had no inclination to return to my spirituality that I left when I was younger. And when I arrived in New York the day before, we had a activist meeting, and in that day, on that Saturday, I was spiritually reawakened. And the next day, I went to Mr. Loftman's service, and so many little miracles happened that weekend. And then the following day, we had another activist um, outreach event at another park, and I will never forget that weekend. And Mr. Loftman was a big part of that. So yes, Mr. Loftman, you want to give a shout out to his church?
Um, yeah, I can't even remember the name of it. Again, we talk about labels like Tabernacle Worship Temple, I want to say. But again, like, to me, it's just the whole story of the thing defies even, it makes me consider, higher power and God. It's absolutely incredible, because to me, I know where to go. If I want to
Mm-hmm.
go to church there, um, I just go, and I wish I did. I
Yeah,
don't even know the name of the church. I don't know
yeah, I mean,
I don't know anything. They're in the back room of another church. It's like
that's right. It's on Atlantic Avenue.
Bushwick
Um, I,
Avenue.
I'm sorry, Bush. I mean the name of the street. A name. There we go with names. Let's get rid of all names. Let's just describe things. He's a black guy on a street in Brooklyn in a church that's next to a antique store. Let's just not name anything because that allows us to put him in a category. Oh, he's one of those. Or he's of that. Oh, that church. I remember that church. I'm not going. So yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
what's
love it.
going
I
on
love it,
here?
man.
You still hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I lost the beat.
Oh no. Oh, coming in now.
Hold on. I lost it. I got. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back. Back. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So yes, we want to the labels and the rebuking and the accountability. Jesse, so I had a temporary disconnection. How's the noise with the beat? Is it too
The
loud?
beat's a little bit loud. Let me bring it down like maybe 20% or so,
Okay, yeah,
I
it just
think.
pumped up. Something went on with my whole system. All right, so there we go. Let's turn the beat down. So, but I want to kind of wrap up this idea of naming the thing and rebuking and the idea that we have to hold our community responsible when there's harm or unsustainability on the horizon. And I have shifted. So I've shifted my stance in that I, when it comes to with the platform we have, the Value Exchange Fellowship, I'll be quite honest. It was a platform that was focused on mirroring what we did at McCarran and having a coalition of neighbors from all backgrounds and all walks of life. But what I'm leaning more into now is that, and actually, it was the original vision of the freedom market, which was the what is now the value exchange, which is that we all do need to work together at some point. We have to mine the value that was taken from our people during slavery, um, that sweat equity. And one way to do that is to be the W.E.B. Du Bois model versus the Booker T model, which is W.E. Du Bois realized, or his strategy, his model was to be in proximity to whiteness, because that's basically, in a nutshell, where the wealth that will sustain his activism lies. And that was kind of the model of the freedom market. Whereas we know, and our allies of all colors knew, that there is wealth disparity, and this is why we would, I mean, it wasn't even about, I didn't believe so much in donations back then. It was more about incentivizing communities to spend. Black at the time, we had a black, all black owned, um, and that's why we needed to be in proximity to whiteness, because you getting the folks, the neighbors, the community, my people on the margins, to buy things when they don't have the same value, 8-to-1 wealth gap, um, is not going to work, because we would just be circulating, and without having a model where that value and that wealth stays in our community, then we're still losing more money. This is my beef with black owned businesses. But at the same time, what we wanted to do was have the proximity to whiteness, support the freedom market, and keep that money circulating in our community. And I went away from that in the years. And coming back to this now, because I'm having these discussions and realizing that there's only so much you can do when people put these labels on you. Because when you are in discussion with somebody who has a opposing view, to convince them to take action that will help not only us but them, sometimes there's a clock, there's a timer, um, there's harm coming, and you have to kind of take a stance. And this is where we've shifted to focusing the FUBU model, which I mentioned before, for us by us. So the value exchange is really doubling down on educating our community, our sisters and brothers, our black brothers and sisters. And one of the things that we're doing tomorrow, Jesse, is after the debate, we're having a kind of I would say a spin-off, I was going to say, but we're having a WhatsApp, sorry, a Zoom session that's going to follow the debate, where we read the book 400 Souls by Ibram, um, Ibram Kendi and Keisha N. Blame are the editors. Ibram X. Kendi, forgive me if I'm getting his name wrong, but he wrote How Not to Be a Racist. Keisha N. Blaine, I don't know as much history about her, but we read it at McCarran as a book club. And it speaks about the journey of our people from 1619 to the current day. And what I want to do is not only have this be a book club, Jesse, but I want it to be something that we can talk about post election activism. And um, I love Jesse, and I love all my white allies, but I don't know if I read the book. I read two books from Gandhi, but in the Gandhi movie, which I also saw, there's this moment when the English um, fellow activist, a missionary, I can't remember exactly what his role was, but when he was fighting for um, freedom from British rule, Gandhi realized there's a point in time when they couldn't have the white faces at the lead, at the head of their movement. And he said that he said to his ally, you have to bow out now. You have to leave our commune. We have to do this on our own. And that's kind of the point where I've reached now. Not that, and not for the value exchange, Jesse. Don't go anywhere. But for got to do better, my brother. That's the platform there, and for 400 souls. It's going to be an affinity group of sorts. And you know, remember the affinity groups at McCarran. So this is kind of what that is. So Jesse, I just want to share that with the audience and with you as well. But I also want to, for maybe for next week, we'll do this. I just want to talk to you because your insight is. We had so many great debate, great not debates. I was going to say debates. We had so many great discussions at McCarran, and I always respected how you was in support of Black Lives. Jesse would sit down with his sign, and we all had masks. This is before we knew what each other looked like. And Jesse would always have a sign, Black Lives Matter. I think it said, among the few signs, and we had 90% of our supporters that were fighting for Black lives at that group were white, and hearing their perspective is what it's all about in the end. But at the end, we are the most marginalized, and we are the ones that really have to figure out what we're going to do as a group first before we reach out to those who are not on the margins, even though they are affected by this cancer that is racism. So Jesse, I just want to share that with you as a friend, as an ally, as the strong supporter and incredible voice that you are. I just want to share that with you here first, as the first white person that I am sharing this model of activism with.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that very much, and I totally understand. There's a great song lyric, that I don't remember, but it basically said, when it comes down to it, are you willing to surrender? I'm down. I'm down to surrender whenever, dude. Like, it ain't no thing to me. Like, I don't believe in ownership of stuff. I'm not like a communist, but like, what is it? So I got a house. Okay, I pay the government however many $8,000-9,000 a year. Like, what does that mean that I own the house? I got property taxes. I pay. Everybody pays rent. Like ownership doesn't make sense contextually in the systems in which we live, and it doesn't make sense externally to those systems either. When we talk about what is property and what is the whole thing. Like, it comes from the earth. All this stuff is natural.
Oh, Jesse, speak, preach, brother. I love it. Yes, that's it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but you just said
it's natural. It just comes from the earth, and what comes from the earth will be returned unto it. And I'm down. I'm not trying to live forever. I don't want a grave plot. Like, I have a whole thing against graveyards. To me, what do you mean you get to just occupy space for all time? No.
I thought about that.
You die and then you just occupy space forever? No. But
so funny. That's so true. Like, what am I doing? This is my spot for eternity.
Yeah. Like, just burn me and then like throw me in the air or in the river, or
wow, that's existential. I'm gonna really
whatever, just dump me in the woods. I don't care. So
we all return to nature. We all
right.
The earth will reclaim us. So you're so right. And actually this speaks to bigger, and we could go on, but this speaks to a bigger kind of fallacy in capitalism for one, but just in our thinking that we are the center, that we center ourselves, because God has given this to all of us. And I said this, I think, in a previous podcast. It's this house, this is not mine. This is made from, the trees, and the mud and the dirt, that makes the cement, and this thing here, and all of this. None of this is mine. And as long as we as civilization try to hold on to this, the earth is going to win in the end. And you think you think this plot of land, this 1/2 acre that my family bought, is going to be theirs in 1,000 years, if we're still around? No, I doubt it. So yeah, Jesse, that's why I was like, yeah, amen.
So that to me is just to bring it back to what you're saying, like, in some sense, I have the right to exist, but just because I have the right to exist doesn't mean I can just go anywhere. When I first stepped back on Lander Street, I was brought there. I didn't just go there.
Mm, mm.
You better not just go there if you don't if you're not brought there or you're not from there or you don't know what's up. Like
Mm.
do not go where I was hanging out today.
I can't wait I was supposed to come up there last month, and I really can't wait till I get up to see the bus stop.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome. You can come with me now. It's all good. But like,
All right.
it's I understand where you're coming from, and I certainly do not want to perpetuate the issue of of misunderstanding about who belongs where and what's this and that and all these things, the labels. I get it, man. Like I don't mind. Again, in A tension we talk about black and white being simple, and we can understand simply to begin with, but then we move past it, and
Mm.
we clearly have not moved past it.
Hmm.
So it's still black and white, and that's cool, man. I don't. I got my black and white sign back at my house with red and yellow on the back of it.
Oh yeah,
Don't
okay.
don't forget that
Yeah.
that black and white are all I see in my infancy. Then red and yellow came to be, reaching out to me, lets me see.
Mm.
So to me, that's it starts black and white, but there's colors, man, and the colors are beautiful.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
and one of these days it won't be a thing. And I hang out at the bus stop with Black Maga, and it don't matter to me what anybody's saying.
Mm.
I have my own understanding, and if somebody says thank God for Trump, hey man, I'm glad that's the way you feel. I don't support Trump, but it's not because I don't. I mean, I don't really like him personally, but whatever. That's not the point. The point is that in order to bridge these gaps, there has to be. Sometimes I feel like I have to be the biggest person in the world, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be
Mm-hmm.
the biggest person in the whole
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you get, there's no, there's no reward for that really. It's in a way, I mean, it is a selfless act of having to let almost, my instinct growing up is to the competitiveness in me is to want to make your point, or, for lack of a better term, to win. And to have someone say something that you just want to uh, go down, bring it down to their level, or continue to debate when you know that this is, maybe you might win, but does it uplift the whole? And that's when you take a step back, and nobody's going to say, oh, yeah, I know, you don't, this is probably the only time you'll hear the person who took the step back in a neutral forum, just as a way to describe the humility that it requires. But in that moment, they're not going to say, "Oh, well, thank you for taking a step back. I know what you did there." You would love to hear that, but you're not going to hear it because that person is just going to instead say, "Yeah, see, I told you so. Yeah, you didn't know. Yeah, I taught you something today, right?" And you kind of like to say, you know, bite your tongue. So I hear you there. I hear, but I would say because, so this is where the difference is, the distinction of why you may not be able to, you may refrain, or me, even myself, I would refrain a few months ago from the Black MAGA speaking and me taking a step back and holding my tongue because I'm realizing now, and we'll find out more about this tomorrow's debate. Not realizing now, but when we feel what's happening to our community because of the Black MAGA, we need to find out, why are you really supporting someone who's perpetuating a racist system that, in the end, if you approach it as an individual, yes, we can see the motivation, so we understand that. But if you think about it, and as a Black MAGA are complaining about the community, then you have to understand that I have to call you out to say that it's a contradiction, it's hypocrisy for you to say that, why don't the Black community uplift themselves, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And saying that as a black MAGA actually, ironically, prevents that from happening because as an individualist, the status quo is upheld by the racist system. And that's the contradiction that I don't know if they realize. And if they do, then fine. Then I'll take a step back. I understand, but be aware that you're harming your community. If that doesn't matter to you and you want to be an individual, then you and I are not on the same page and the same wavelength. We don't have the same purpose. And I think that's where the confrontation matters. So I just want to share
I'd love
that.
to bring you to the bus stop, man. I absolutely would love it. I was there for
Mm.
like 4 hours today, man. Just like,
Wow.
oh
Wow.
yeah, I put a full shift in. I did work
Wow.
today, man.
Amen to that. Wow. This bus stop is amazing. I can't wait to get there. Um, anyway, Jesse, we're gonna we one on one we did an hour. I mean, this is how it always was with Jesse and I, and we could go on for 2 3 hours talking about many things. And I actually want to next time we come on, I want to I actually like I'm finding something here that I don't know. I think I've seen it in the past with you and I. And because now I have this other podcast with Jihad, got to do better, my brother. Um, I realized that there's also a necessity for having the conversations, and this is the reason that part of the reason I had these conversations at work, because hearing a perspective from people who are not of African descent, African heritage, African ancestry is also very important. Um, and I think this is part of the growth that Jesse and I have had over the years. And actually, I mean, I won't say that specifically because Jesse and actually we never really talk about it from a racial lens, more from a sustainability for me or justice lens. Race happens to be the key component that uh, we don't mention between you and I. It was a daily mention at McCarran. Maybe that's why, because it's the thing that brought us together. So, but I do appreciate this. I say that because I realized we did an hour just you and I, but usually we would have one or two other people. So this is more like the conversations that we've had before. Whereas when we had these other Friday night fellowships at the Value Exchange, it it was a different conversation, and I like this. I just want to say that.
Man, I would just I listened to you talk. I've listened to you talk probably 100 hours.
Yeah,
By
yeah,
now,
both of us,
at least
both of us.
100 hours of you, expressing your opinion. And I'm looking forward to the next 100 hours, man. Whether I'm a part
Amen.
of it
I love that how you say
or
that.
whether I'm watching it live or a VOD or whatever. I really appreciate your perspective and your ability to communicate so eloquently and forcefully and with intention and purpose, and all of these things that make it pleasurable to listen. Because some of the times when I'm listening to people, I'm like, this is exercise.
Hmm.
This is like this is me practicing being present in a situation, listening to someone
That's
talk
funny.
about something that is so irrelevant to any reasonable kind of when we talk about practical or actual
Hmm.
action. But to me it's a meditation and its purpose. But this is not that. This is very engaging always. And
Always.
your
That's
podcast with Jihad is amazing. I cannot wait for future episodes of that. And I would like to talk to Jihad about a few things, especially given the education that I've gotten at the bus stop. There's a lot of crossover, and there's several points that I'm a little bit unsure of how people with a particular type of perspective, particularly sort of the Hebrew ancestry
mm.
and the Israelite ancestry, um, where they think I came from. I find it
Mm.
very interesting. There's a guy at the bus stop who I love very much. His name, he calls himself Wise, and that dude is Wise. I might have mentioned Wise before, and he has a very interesting perspective on where white people came from.
Mm.
And I've always
Yeah,
thought that we sort of came from the same place. You know, it's just we might have gotten separated a couple of 100,000 years ago, maybe. But there, I'm curious if there is any real evidence for a completely separate origin for a different type, a different color of person. My understanding is there is not, but I'm open to another type of historical perspective.
mm.
In
Yeah.
which case, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, finish. Yes.
Oh, in which case, this whole black and white and race thing is the result of systems and oppression and marginalization and very basic tribal outcomes of society, and that to me would be a great travesty if one I'm just like have no idea what I'm talking about, which is quite possible, or two, that is the way of things, and we've been divided a long time ago simply by uh, geography
Mhm.
and sort of the way that the earth and the atmosphere and the sun work in different parts of the world has resulted in a disparity, which is really just totally unfortunate. It's like the definition of a tragedy, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, you bring that up because yeah, I'm also interested because as I am not familiar with it. When you start speaking about that, it reminded me of a book, and I happened to see it back there, which is how my learning of history and how we are where we are. It's this book by Jared Diamond, Guns, Germs, and Steel, and it really speaks about the trip from Africa to the Fertile Crescent, to Antarctica, not the Antarctica, the North Pole, Alaska, down through North America, and it speaks about why there's some people that have, and then how some people are changed. But it does say what you said, which is we all come from one ancestry, and it's just, and I think Jihad actually explained that, well, not explained it to me, but I was under the impression that that's where he was coming from. From where I understand it, I I got most of the one that I lean towards is Guns, Germs, and Steel, and that we traveled, and just to give a quick recap of the book, really quick, because as you can see, it's a pretty thick book. Basically, the argument is that why the Europeans, why are they ahead of us now? And that's because, uh, in a nutshell, they developed from Africa, landed in the Fertile Crescent, where they we went from hunter gatherers to farmers. The reason we were able to go from hunter gatherers to farmers is because of domesticated animals and because of the lay of the land. So you could share crops across the vertical kind of layout of north of Europe versus the horizontal layout of, sorry, the horizontal layout of Europe versus the vertical layout of Africa. So like a crop in the north of Africa is not really easily exchangeable with the crops of the southern tip of Africa because the climate changes. But across Europe, for the most part, you had the same climate, so you have more trading. Also, you had domesticated animals, so the tasks were easier, so you had more time to innovate. And this book really breaks it down. There's also a documentary you could look at as well. So that was kind of my understanding. I think maybe there's an overlap. I looked to the Bible as well, and this is, I guess, this is important. Maybe, I mean, Jihad, sorry, Jihad. I said Gerard because his name is Gerard Diamond. But Jihad, I shared with him, I showed him your text today. He was so happy we were working together because this is what he had to say, and he loves having these discussions, so I know he would. But I showed him the text. He was so happy. Um, us coming from New York, uh, we have been exposed to media, and to the media capital of the world is New York. And when I showed him your text, Jesse, and I showed him that you were all opening this invitation, he said something that just really resonated with me, which is he said that he's from Ohio originally, but he grew up in Florida, and he was like, man, the fact that my voice is being heard in New York is just so inspiring for him. And he was just like, you could see the genuine joy just from your message. So he's excited. thinking about, man, how we gonna do this, Trev. I'm gonna leave it up to you. Just make it happen. So just to let you know, yeah, he's already like super excited about what you said and what you shared. So, but yeah, you guys could talk, and I would love to hear that because and my cousin as well, the MAGA, Black MAGA, he said the same thing. And as you maybe heard it in the podcast, so they're going to challenge each other as well, so that I can learn. So, amen to that.
Yeah, man. Amen indeed. I'll let you wrap it up. I could keep going, but I'll let you wrap it up because I think it's just been a beautiful conversation, and I look forward to, the like I said, watching the VOD of the debate. I unfortunately won't be able to watch it live, but I will certainly check it out because what you, I mean, you have a way, not just with words, but with production. The production quality of what you do is very high, and I think I don't have to say why I know that, whatever. I have experience with high production value productions, and what you do is incredible. And so I genuinely appreciate your continued efforts day in and day out, man, because this does not stop,
Yeah,
And this
spreading the
is
word.
what was so difficult about McCarran was that it
Stopped.
it stopped, and
Yeah,
it keeps humming and going, but we just gotta keep going, man,
yeah.
every day. And so, I'm doing my thing
You're doing
here,
it.
and one of
The
these
bus
days we'll get
stop.
you up here.
Yeah, I
Yep,
love it.
we'll
You're
get
your
you up here,
inspiration
and
to me too. So I love it. Just yeah, we feed off each other. Go ahead. Sorry, you were saying.
all right, man.
All right. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Finish up. I want to hear. I want to. Sorry, I interrupted you, but go ahead.
Well, like, and I kind of left the bus stop for like, maybe 6, 7, 8 weeks,
Mm.
and I started like drifting away, and I was like, and then, T Power came back. He came back, and he
Power.
brought me back out there, and I was like, oh
Oh.
my God, what was I doing? What was, you know? I was like, this is what it's about. It's about being out in the world, and when I'm out in the world, whoa. Like I
Mm.
said, I can't even tell you all the connections and the building and like the discovery and like the wonder, man, the total wonder of the thing just by being out there at the bus stop. But you got to be there for a couple hours. If you go for like 5 minutes and you're like, oh, okay, that ain't what it is. That ain't what it is. You gotta post up and you gotta be available and you gotta be open. And when you are, woo,
Woo!
woo.
Yo, I'm inspired. Jesse, your stories, you're the best storyteller I know, and I love hearing the stories, and I can't wait to get there. Um, you're a gem and of high value to us as well. You say have high value production, but high value human is also it's more important. I shouldn't say also, it's more important. So yeah, let's keep it going. It stopped at McCarran, but we're keeping it going, right? We're keeping it going. I love it. I love it. So we're gonna wrap up, Jesse. If you got nothing else to say, I'm gonna wrap it up.
That's it, man. Wrap it up.
All right. So I'm doing a new thing where I pray to the God beat, to the God beat, to the God beat, to the God beat. Let me turn that up a little. The God beat, the God beat. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us here today, Jesse and I, here to spread the word, continuing the journey from McCarran to New York to Florida. We are here. We love you. We want to share the message of activism with the world, of spirituality with the world, of love with the world, of trust with the world. My brother, Jihad, my brother, Jesse, my family in faith and love, Florida to New York. Help me with my family. Help all of my neighbors that we come together as one. Set aside our differences when we can to build something more, something great, a new world. If we believe we can do it, if we understand how to do it, if we practice how to do it, if we don't stop, we will do it. As Jesse said, just keep it going. It's why we're here. from the bus stop to New York to Florida with faith. I love you, God. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings. Thank you, everybody. My name is Trev. That's Jesse. We are here next week, next Friday, but tune in tomorrow as well. Peace.